First of all, let me thank you, Rusudan, Askar, for being here for this session of Oozeki on taxation, and on taxation and on many other related and unrelated things, perhaps. So the Oozeki is a small initiative to bring together people from different backgrounds and discuss societal issues that are relevant initially to Kyrgyzstan, but also maybe to other countries as well. I'm amazingly grateful to Rustan for being available for this meeting, because I know your busy schedule. Rusudan, she's a world-renowned tax expert. She's in tax administration, but also in public finance. After working in Georgia for the government and for international organizations, she's now leading the Tax Inspectors Without Borders, which is an initiative set up by the OECD and the UNDP. She's based in Paris. And now, I will start with a couple of questions, and then Askar, I think, will also have his perspective on the taxation issues, because Askar, he is the head of the International Business Council in Kyrgyzstan, and he is the lead on so many issues representing the biggest companies in Kyrgyzstan, and he's also been recently discussing this taxation-related issues in the Parliament of Kyrgyzstan. So I think we will have short but interesting discussion today. So, Rusudan, as you know, I like asking non-technical questions. So, but my first question would be, you work in such a highly regulated and such a very technical field with taxation. And I know that usually all questions that are related to tax, they are studied from finance, accounting, and maybe from legal perspectives. But I know that also in Oxford, you were studying taxation from a philosophy perspective. And I think for you, it's more than just a regulatory or legal framework. It's something more of a passion, maybe, or maybe you could tell us what is fascinating about tax for you.
Thank you, Nazik. First of all, good morning, and really pleasure for me to participate in this webinar. And happy New Year to you and to Askar and to the audience, and wishing you all a very peaceful year ahead. So just to back to your question, if you would ask me this question 20 years ago, I would say this is the most boring profession in the world. But since I started, my career at the Ministry of Finance in Georgia, so I discovered that tax is indeed more than just technical subject. So, and it's a very practical tool. I mean, I think a powerful tool for governments to mobilize the resources, and also to build some culture of paying taxes and building the trust between taxpayers and the tax administrations. I think that can be done. It's kind of an art. It's not just a very, I would say, a broad and dry subject. And as you rightly said, even more, when I studied at Oxford, I discovered that even there are more deep roots there, and it could be linked to the philosophy and learning the Nazik and other philosophers. I discovered that it has a really, some deep and interesting context and content. So yes, as in US, they say it's like a sport. If you are there, you feel every day, the adrenaline, and it has stimulation effect. So it's about always learning, always, challenging yourself, and always, growing. So either you like it or you don't like it, and it's like. I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said, nothing is certain in this world except death and taxes. And indeed, this is right. So just to, and even today, I started at the Ministry of Finance and was a public official. And Today I'm working in an international organization and different perspective and working within the OECD to help developing countries, to build their capacity and building capacity in the audit and in other aspects of the international law. And I think I will have more, possibility to talk about the importance of the initiative and some results. But I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Rusudan. And indeed, you started talking about the tax inspectors without borders initiative work in developing countries. And in your opinion, you have both this. You served as a vice minister of finance in Georgia. You have both this internal and overarching this umbrella perspective to tax-related issues. And what, in your opinion, maybe the key challenges that developing countries are encountering, and how in your work you try to address them?
Thank you very much. It's a very good question and very complex. So before responding to a question, just to explain to audience what is the Tax Inspectors Without Borders and what is the mandate of this initiative. So the Tax Inspectors Without Borders is a joint initiative of the OECD and UNDP that embeds tax experts in developing countries, tax administrations, to provide a practical hands-on assistance on the real audit cases and related international tax issues. So it's mainly underpins OECD G20 BEPS, base erosion and profit shifting actions, as a broader effort of international countries to combat this severe issue, which is fighting against tax avoidance and the tax evasion. So it's really a very unique niche assistance, and just in a very plain and simple word to explain how it works, we send experts from developed countries to the developing countries tax administration to sit down together with the local auditors to conduct the real audit cases. So, and it's mainly about taxing multinational enterprises, and we deal with the cross-border transactions. So here we're using the transfer pricing methodologies, risk assessment, and all the other, industry specific, methodologies to fight tax avoidance. So currently, we have mobilized 1.7 billion through TIWB programs and assessed 3.9 billion across the world, including Eastern Europe, Asia, Latin America, Caribbean, and Africa. So, and most of our programs are in Africa region. Currently, we have 53 programs, and it's mainly about the tax audit, but we started new programs in criminal tax investigations, exchange of automatic exchange of information, which is mainly, about the transparency and implementation of the international standards and transparency. And here, the Global Forum is responsible for this. However, the TIWB steps in at a very later stage when the countries need a practical implementation of these standards and the data they are receiving. So the TIWB is mainly about the hands-on practical assistance. It's about the learning by doing approach. So that's why it's such a successful initiative and the countries benefiting so much. And mainly these are the developing countries, as I said. So the challenges, although their challenges are different and varies from country to country and from continent to continent. However, the most challenging thing is the capacity, right? So the tax administration that really have enough capacity to deal with very sophisticated and complex transactions, and they lose the tax revenues. And just to give you an example, for example, in Mongolia, we raised 228 million USD through one program, audit program in extractive sector. So, when it comes to the domestic taxation, so more or less, they have a quality, so the countries, they have some resources, but when it comes to the more sophisticated, I would say more complex transactions, or when it comes to the international standards and the implementation of the international standards, we see that the capacity is really low. And through this kind of programs, which is not just trainings or the workshops. It's mainly about, sitting together with the local auditors and helping them to understand how this works in practice. So, and demonstrating some real impact. And this is not only the revenue impact, these are also, qualitative impact. So building the capacity, as I said, we see that the competencies and the skills of the auditors increasing after, the one audit program. And through the self-assessment and through the other monitoring and evaluation tools, we see that the compliance also is increasing. And I think this is great initiative. The challenges are, as I said, different. Mainly these are the scarce resources, right, at the tax administrations. The leadership and the ownership also, we've seen that this is an issue. However, in most countries where they've seen already the progress and they've seen these significant results, so then they understand the importance of the initiative and will see, great feedback and see, their willingness to continue and have different programs in different industries. For example, we had a general transfer pricing audit. We've seen that after the one finished program, we have, requests for the telecommunication or the financial services or for the forestry industry, depending on the economies and their, challenges they're facing in their countries. So I stop here. I don't know if you have other additional questions or.
Thank you, Rusudan. It was really very insightful to learn more about your work and what you're doing concretely. But maybe one step further. So you mentioned you support countries with raising their capacity and building capacity on tax collection and other related issues. Do you think, is there any patterns? So what kind of capacity is it related? I mean, from your work, maybe is it related to the knowledge of international regulations and understanding of how things work beyond the country frontiers? Or maybe it's more about the management and governance issues or technologies, just trying to understand. And so my fellows in Kyrgyzstan can also have the grasp of these issues that are related to capacity.
Indeed, I think this is the combination of everything you listed, and definitely there is knowledge of international standards also, and they I think a language barrier is also an issue, and we had the same, in my country, because it's a very specific, field and terminology, and sometimes you see that even it's very simple things, but sometimes even the language is a barrier, and the implementation of this standards requires the knowledge and understanding of the principles and understanding of these international norms. And also sometimes they don't know that this type of regulation exists, and they can utilize all these resources. And that was the same when I was working at the Ministry of Finance. I tried to discover through my personal network, to understand how it works in their countries, how they're using in practice all these international norms, because sometimes we have this brilliant and nice conventions, and the guidelines, but we see that in practice they are not really utilized well, and that's because of different things. That could be a governance, that could be technological issue, that could be, all these issues you have listed. But the most of the thing, I think, awareness. They just know that this type of regulation exists, and this type of and what the benefit actually they can get. So this is the most important. And sometimes they're very and it's taxation, which is primary, the domestic thing, and it's the countries are protective, and we fully understand, because I have this perspective also as I've been a vice minister from at the Ministry of Finance in my country. I understand this competition, but when it comes to the fair taxation, when it comes to the international standards, I think we have to cooperate more and share this knowledge and experience more. And I think that's why I think the Tax Inspectors Without Borders is very unique, and it complements to the broader, assistance or the capacity building project implemented or offered by other international organizations such as IMF, World Bank, or at the regional level, ATAF, or CREDAF, or SIAT, or other organizations who are offering capacity building programs.
Thank you, Rusudan. I think Askar was also an Oxbridge graduate. I see that Adil from Oxford, who has also joined, he's from Kazakhstan. Askar would be a good person to comment on this because he's they lead actually the voice of business, as it's written in his background, and voice of big business in Kyrgyzstan, and his tirelessly working on improving the business, the environment for business in Kyrgyzstan. Maybe do you think, Askar, it would be a good initiative for Kyrgyzstan, and what is your impression of this kind of initiatives? Because it seems like for many other countries it has very nice results, and would it be also of and maybe you could also give us a grasp of the situation with tax administration in Kyrgyzstan. I think you are very well placed for this.
Thank you, Nazik. Thank you for having me. It's good to meet Rusudan and your colleagues. Merry Orthodox Christmas to everyone, and Happy New Year. On the topic, of course, we will be happy to keep contact with the tax inspectors without borders, as Rusudan mentioned. It was quite interesting to see and hear what you are doing in other countries, in Mongolia and greater region, those countries that are of a great interest for Kyrgyzstan as well. Although I do hope that it's not just about inspecting, but also about helping the taxpayers to proceed. Just to give you a quick background information about our tax administration here in Kyrgyzstan. We've got a new tax code since the beginning of 2022, which was quite quickly adopted in late last year without proper consultations with all stakeholders, and therefore has multiple kind of omissions and things that need to be adjusted, need to be corrected. And this is what we are working on right now at the moment. A big package of amendments, draft amendments to the tax code has been prepared throughout all this year of 2022 and is about to be reviewed in the parliament. We're now working to include those of our proposals which haven't been considered before right now with the MPs directly. Why this tax code was adopted? So the rationale was that our last tax code was in effect from 2009 and has seen more than 100 amendments since then. So the new government, the new president have proposed that we do a complete change, to a complete tax reform, and try to reduce the level of shadow economy, which we still do have in large amounts. According to different estimates, it is estimated to be something from 20 to almost 60%, according to various formal and informal estimates. This is one thing, and secondly, this is the uneven tax burden that we have on different groups of taxpayers. Just to give an example, 0.6% of the total number of taxpayers right now pay 81% of the tax revenues. So this shows a kind of inadequate, uneven distribution of tax burden on different groups, namely on a huge tax burden on big businesses. Something over 1,000 taxpayers pay all those 81% of all tax revenue. And the remaining 98% of 98% of all other taxpayers, which mainly represent small businesses, contribute just around 13% of the tax rate. Everybody did understand that we need to change this. We need to make the tax burden more even, more just, and we need to reduce the level of shadow economy. We need to improve tax administration, and thus kind of create more healthy economy and healthy tax system. This has, well, according to the government's estimates, this has been partly achieved this year with this new tax code, because the government has collected something like 55% more taxes than it did last year, thanks to partly to the reforms in tax administration, new tax code, but also according to the businesses, this has to do with more, even more burden on big and medium-sized businesses, and more kind of stringent control, kind of pressure put on businesses. This is what businesses complaining about, and this is what we're trying to change. We're trying to explain that we need to cut the budget expenditures and make focus and be focused not only on fulfilling the state budget, but on creating a compact, small-sized government, cutting public expenditures, and leaving more funds, more money in the economy, in the business. So this is what we are now delivering as a voice of business to the government. Thankfully, public-private dialogue is quite active in our country at all levels, starting from the ministerial departments, the ministers, the vice prime ministers, prime minister, and also the president himself. They're all open to hear what we have to say, which we make use of and which we are trying to, and therefore we are trying to deliver everything that the businesses have to say. We have specific public-private dialogue platforms for that purpose, and we are actively kind of being dealt with. So this is briefly about what we have now. If it's interesting, I can also tell you more about the key reforms that the new tax code brought with it. This is the new single tax system, which has introduced single tax for most of SMEs, a flat tax rate, which does not consider, which does not include VAT, sales tax, or any other taxes, but has a flat rate of single tax ranging from 0.25% for apparel industry to 8% for all other industries not listed in 4, 6, and 2% thresholds. This is a flat tax rate from turnover, which does not include any expenditures and offsets. And the general tax regime, which is not covered by single tax, still has this VAT system, value-added tax of 12%, 10% corporate profit tax, and sales tax with different rates, which vary according to sector-by-sector basis. Throughout all these discussions in 2022, last year, we've managed to secure the key things that businesses wanted to keep for the next year, mainly the 0% sales tax for non-cash payments to stimulate and incentivize non-cash payments, to incentivize bank transactions, formal economy transactions. This is what we did manage to secure. We also did manage to lower the single tax rates for HoReCa industry, for hotels and restaurants, and for tourism industry. There have been also some of the preferences made for green economy and for creative industries part, so-called new tax regime for all creative industries. I have to say that in this regard, we have made a big leap forward compared to other neighboring and also faraway nations. If I'm not mistaken, there is no such a tax regime anywhere else. This basically includes 0.5% tax rate for all creative industries, which is very beneficial compared to others. And with this, our government and the creative industries such trying to boost the services sector that we already have rapidly developing here in our country to make it grow further. We hope so. Sorry for quite long introduction.
No, it was amazing to learn about so many interesting happenings in Kyrgyzstan and the reforms that you've been also part of moving things forward. So thank you for sharing it. And I don't know whether Adil, he's our Oxonian fellow from Kazakhstan. He's now also with the government. He will have a commentary. We have 6 more minutes left. But indeed, as Askar said, justice and taxation is one of the key issues, and also how to overcome all the issues that are related to the informal economy, which also include social economy, social enterprises, cooperatives that I work on. So it's a huge discussion, but maybe very briefly, Rusudan can comment on this, and then I will ask one last question. Adil, I see you're here. Maybe you can.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe you can.
hello. Sorry, yeah, I joined a bit late. Sorry about it. Yeah, if possible, can I ask a question? Yes, from Rusudan. Is it possible?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nazik. Askar, hello, nice to meet you, Rusudan. So, as you know, yeah, I now work at a governmental think tank, and to some extent, I'm dealing with fiscal policy, with taxes. And my question is, so in your opinion, Rusudan, what is the best way to find an optimum level of tax rates? I mean, it depends on the tax, like, yes, is it a VAT or individual tax or corporate tax? What is the best way to find an optimum tax rate? That's the first question. Yeah, I know it's it's a question, but maybe you can share some, some methodology, or I don't know, your views. And the second question is there any current job which is run between the TIWB and Kazakhstani government? I mean, the past projects or current projects? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Adil. Very good questions. I mean, about the optimal taxation as just one, subject to learn and study at Oxford, but together with Nazik. But I think when it comes to the, the tax system, I always say that there is no one size fits all. So, and from my experience from Georgia, and we had 21 or 22 taxes. So when I was leading the reform, we cut this to 6 or 7 taxes, right? So there are, progressive tax, progressivity, and this is in the theory you will learn that this is the most efficient way, and it's always, about efficiency and equity, thing. But when it comes to the rate, it depends on your economy and depends, what you want to achieve. So, and the one important thing which Askar mentioned is that it's always important to have a dialogue with the business and listen to the business. Otherwise, you've seen what happened with the Margaret Thatcher when she introduced the poll tax, right? So you have really here and listen to, the business, to the taxpayers, and feel really on ground what is the most important, and it should be the part of the broader tax or economic reform. And the sustainability the transparency is the most important, that the business knows what to expect from the government and from the tax administrations. And Askar, as you said, the tax inspectors without borders is not only, the inspecting and auditing. It's been really a game changer for the, for the tax administrations, because they know how to deal with the taxpayers, what type of information they have to request, how they have to request, how to run the interviews with the taxpayers. And also, I've been a game changer for the taxpayers, because they know what to expect from the government, what to expect from the tax administration. I think tax, the building the trust between taxpayer and the tax administration is a critical. And also, I think the important is, the tax morale report, which we currently published, and I will share with you and with colleagues that might be also interesting from the business sector perspective to see, what are the challenges and, and what are the recommendations there. So until the optimal rates, so there are some theories, and I have now in front of me, actually, this is the tax policy handbook. It's quite old, but published by the IMF. So there are a lot of, the theories and a lot of, but the main thing is really what you want to achieve in your countries. What is your economy and this really it has to be the part of the broader agenda, economic agenda, your country. What we did in Georgia a few years ago was that we simplified the tax system, we simplified the tax code, and we reduced the tax rates and the tax tax rates in order to make sure that we increase the compliance rate in the country and reduce the shadow economy. So, but as I said, they all countries. You have to analyze within the broader agenda you're having in the broader economy. You know better in your country what are the. But as I said, there is a lot of recommendations. So it's the standalone subject, and I will not talk about efficiency and the equity issue, because I think you know better than me, but it's rather about what is really the priority for your government, what are the challenges. And
I see that
yes.
we have less than a minute. We wanted to keep it only 40 minutes as it's allowed, but I would like to take this couple of seconds to thank you so much. And